Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with Jazz Multi-Instrumentalist, composer, and arranger Robert Kyle and pianist and vocalist Alyse Korn. They open up about their latest collaboration as musicians and a couple on Tuesday's Child. Comprised of 9 captivating compositions written and performed by the duo, the songs are intimate and lyrical, inspired by their love of jazz, Brazilian, and Afro-Cuban music. We get into this album, live music, their beginnings, the future, and so much more. Enjoy this interview.
Well, hey, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out to talk about the music and, kind of how you two have worked together over the years. So I appreciate your time today.
We appreciate you reaching out to us for the interview. Thank you.
Sure. So before we get into Tuesday's Child, I want to know, we all went through quite a thing with COVID, all worked on it in very different ways, especially the music community. So I'm wondering how you survived this COVID period and how releasing this album now with the world opening up, how does it feel?
It was a difficult period for so many people, and we were grateful that we had each other to make music with during that whole time. So we've been playing together and been a couple for almost 9 years. And the COVID gave us the opportunity to really kind of zero in on each other's compositions and all the music we were playing together and kind of polish up the arrangements and make a plan for the recording we wanted to make. So it was, there was a lot of obviously horrific stuff for anybody that, was affected by COVID, but there were also some silver linings to that, in that for a little while anyway, we were able to put the hustle on sort of pause and put all the running around all over the place for gigs and rehearsals and sessions and blah, 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 kind of on hold, and gave us a chance to just sort of relax and get more deeply into the music.
Rob and I, we met in 2014 on a gig, and immediately we started introducing our music to each other and just playing. We love to play together and doing gigs together. And we moved to Ojai in around mid-year of 2019. And since we're so busy, we really didn't have the time to unpack our household. And so it was, in one sense, a blessing in that we had the time just to settle in to our new home and get to know each other. and like Rob said, everything was correct. Having the time to work more deeply on our compositions together, arrangements, and a lot of rehearsals. Just had all the time in the world to rehearse. We also live in Ojai, which is a very special place. More rural. So we also survived by being able to get outdoors and enjoy nature together, take walks. And I had started teaching online before the pandemic. So I was also teaching online, and I also am a sound therapist. So I had more clients than ever during the pandemic, just did phone or Zoom sound therapy sessions. So a lot of that helped us through.
And the other thing I think that we wanted to say about kind of the music and our feeling about releasing that, which at this time, is that we both, as Alyse expressed in the first song on the record, Gratitude, that we both have a enormous amount of gratitude just, for being safe and healthy and being able to make music and being with each other and being able to share our music with other people, and, grateful to live in a peaceful place. And we wanted to kind of musically try to express that with this recording.
So with this recording, what are you ultimately hoping the listener gets from it?
I guess we're hoping that they feel a little bit of the beauty and peace and calm that we were experiencing when we were making the record. And we hope that they get a little bit of that when they listen to it.
So you had mentioned that you met back in 2014, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about how that happened. How did you meet, and when did you know that this was going to turn into a musical relationship and kind of turn into what it is today?
Yes. So we had known of each other because we both have been attending California Brazil camp. But then we met again in 2014, where I was on a gig at Picanha. It's like a Brazilian barbecue restaurant. Picanha, right? Is that
Churrascaria.
In Burbank, California, playing Brazilian music with a Peruvian singer, trio. And I had noticed on her charts that Rob Kyle did the arrangements. Okay. So Alyse says, Rob's coming in tonight to sit in. It's a Saturday night. Great. So Rob comes in and just kind of sneaks on stage, and we start our musical relationship there.
Yeah, we both have a lot of love for and history with Brazilian music. And Alyse is a great singer who sings Brazilian music, who I have a long musical relationship with. So she invited me to come sit in on a night I had off, and Alyse was playing with her, and there we were playing music together for the first time. So I would say it began right then and there.
Right then and there. And that night, my friends were playing Cuban music at a Cuban restaurant around the corner, and I had asked everyone, who would like to go out and hear some great Cuban music after our show? And Rob said, I'll do it. I'll go.
Yeah, we both also have a deep history and love of Afro-Cuban music. So that was two big connections right away.
So each of you have a history, and each of you have musical roots that obviously have intertwined and combined. So each respectively, talk to me a little bit about how your love of music began and how it turned into a career that eventually intersected.
Well, I believe it was partially my uncle's fault. You want to go way back prenatally. My father's brother said he put the headphones on my mom's belly and was playing Charlie Parker, Bird, for me prenatally. And my dad is a huge jazz aficionado, so he had albums. He had actually all kinds of music, but great jazz. So he was listening to Miles, Louis Armstrong, Monk, and I loved to dance to Lulu's Back in Town off It's Monk's Time. When I was a toddler, I have a picture of me standing on a hassock, dancing around, and I must have danced with that so much they called me Lulu, nicknamed me Lulu. So I just always had that knowing that I was going to be a musician. And then, of course, singing. My grandmother's a pianist, finally trained classical pianist, and one opera singer, trained as an opera singer. So I was always hearing the singing, the piano playing, and I was doing that, I guess, since a toddler age. And music through school, played clarinet, sang in choirs, played clarinet in middle school, then jumped into high school playing with big band and orchestra, piano, jazz piano, playing the woodwinds in the orchestra. Then by college, community colleges were asking me to jump in and play in their big bands, playing on piano. Then jumped into University of Miami. I just knew I had to go to that great jazz school there and into the jazz department for jazz piano, studio music and jazz. So it was just like a natural transition. And I actually had to fight hard for that because some families said, well, we want you to go into music education. Funnily enough, I did get into teaching, but the pull was, I want to be a performer. I want to play jazz. And at that time, it was not as women. It wasn't such such a, what do I want to say?
Commonplace.
You know, the support for women. There was not a lot of support for women to play in jazz piano. So I had to fight hard for it. But that was natural, and I jumped from university to Cal Arts, jazz piano, and making my career out in LA.
Yeah, I guess I started really young. On piano was actually the very first instrument I had lessons, and then later switched to drums. And I was playing in drums in rock and roll bands and clubs, and my first road work as a touring musician, I was 18 years old on the road as a drummer. And then when I got back from that experience, I had to make a decision whether I wanted to, you know, because I moved back in with my parents. They said, well, you either have to get a full-time job, or if you want to study music, you could do that, but you have to really commit to it. So I committed to that, and I went back to school as a drummer, as a music major, as a drummer, but I had always loved the saxophone. So kind of on a whim, I picked up the saxophone bought it out of the paper, and immediately I fell in love with the saxophone and was just playing it day and night, and the drums quickly took a back seat. And, you know, all through my 20s, my memories are just all I was doing was practicing and going to school. That's all I was doing. Sleeping occasionally. And I think because of my background in drums, I became very interested in music that had interesting rhythmic qualities. Hence my fascination with Brazilian music and Afro-Cuban music and jazz. And I was still to this day, a big fan of Stan Getz, and he was my introduction to Brazilian music. So I would say my three kind of favorite musics are jazz and Brazilian and Afro-Cuban, and Alyse and I share those same kind of passions, although we have lots of other interests, you know, across the music spectrum. Those are the three big ones. And we both also have lots of history playing before we even met each other with lots of Brazilian and Afro-Cuban, as well as jazz artists around LA. And for Alyse, before she moved to LA, out in Miami.
So in Miami, the music is all around. We have a lot of Cuban neighbors, Puerto Rican neighbors having throwing parties. So even as a child, I was exposed to that music, not only on my dad's albums, but just in the environment. And of course, University of Miami was introduced to more of the orchestral music of Jobim, and got into African drumming at that time. And then jumping to LA at Cal Arts, they have a big world music program. So I was very immersed in African drum and dance, playing the Brazilian music and playing in their salsa orchestra, playing Javanese and Balinese gamelan, just really getting into world music heavily, and getting calls while I was a student to play in salsa bands and Brazilian bands. And people just assume, because I'm from Miami, that I can play salsa. So I ended up working more in those genres in LA than in the straight ahead jazz scene.
So let's say you two come to Kansas City to perform Tuesday's Child, and you have to sell this show. How would you describe a live show? How would you pull people into a Kansas City venue to watch you perform this album live?
I would say that this is a very intimate, lyrical, and soulful and beautiful collection of musicians, and the music we present. We hope that, as we said earlier, inspires some of the peace and calm that we feel when we composed it and when we play it.
And also performed by lyrical. Mm-hmm.
If anyone out there wants to pick up the album, where's the best place? Where's the best place to pick it up and to find out about any live shows? Do you have anything pertaining to your collective world? Where can they go?
Yeah, thanks for asking. They should go to our website, which is armusic.org. And that has all the links to where they can purchase physical or digital copies of the record. It has all of our upcoming concerts listed, as well as other info about what we're up to.
Wonderful. Well, hey, this has been great. Thank you for opening up about the album. I'm looking forward to profiling that and our interview on Neon Jazz. So thank you for your time today.
Oh, thank you so much, Joe. We sure appreciate it.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players on the East Coast, West Coast, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to both Robert and Alyse for their time, music, and combined stories. If you want more interviews, you can find Neon Jazz interviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.